How are we doing, everyone? Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel with Crime Theory. I'm Ron Swanson, and my camera's off. How are we all doing? I hope we're all doing well. I'm waiting on my panel, as per usual. So bear with me. We're all just going to have a little chitty chat. I'm going to bring some stuff up on the screen so that we've all got some bits to look at. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming and joining me. I am very much learning along. Anyone who's used to the deep dive style shows that we do, this is another one of those this evening on the subject of USHER, where he fits in, deleting tweets, this whole power and control network that seems to manifest itself. Now, I would ask if you could all just bear with me for 5 minutes max. I just need to remind everybody that we're doing a show. Okay, Wedger is going to be here in 2. Bear with me for 1 minute, everybody. And I hope everyone is doing well. Please make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're sharing, getting this out if we can. And I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's views. Now, Shane, if you're here, come jump on the panel. Queenie, I don't know where you are. Okay, bear with me, everybody. This is what happens when you have multiple live streams during the day. You just got to sort of bear with it. Now, luckily, in the nick of time, I got a video uploaded for you lovely people to watch after this live stream, and it's mad. It is mad. And one of the things I want to focus on throughout all of my side of this P. Diddy content, whatever you want to call it, especially with the Daily Show and with these evening shows, I want to be looking at what I consider is the real story, which is this worldwide cabal, okay, this hierarchy of elites, of celebrities, musicians, the red horned goat-legged guy and the worship of him, and how all of this sort of feels like every single time there's a break of a story like this, it always feels like we're just scratching the surface of something. And there's multiple roads we can go down with theories. But for me, I want to just ask you all to have an open mind while we sort of look at the possibility of a cabal, a secret society, a PDF file network, evil, like take the word PDF file network out of your head. It's destruction and control is what is at the center of someone like P. Diddy. When you have a man who's willing to pay $50 million for a straight person to do non-straight things, that is a serious God complex that you have there, and it's wild. But sadly, for the first at least 20 minutes of this show, we need to just chat like the algorithm wants us to. And I'm very, very sorry about that, but this is the way that it goes in the YouTube world. Big shout out to you, Arkman, my G. We need to have a catch up, my boy. Shaney boy, you are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you getting on? We need to just do the 20 minutes of fluff. Because the only reason I'm saying that, 20 minutes of fluff at the start and doing a 2-hour live stream is a difference between ending the stream with 10,000 views and 30,000 views. Do you see what I mean? And we love you, algorithm. Yes. Shane, are you there? Your mic's off.
Yeah, I knew that. No, I was just sitting here laughing, and all of a sudden I realized my mic's off. Yay.
Yeah. So obviously you've been joining us on the Daily Show. We've been diving into Diddy. Do you want to sort of give me your information? What do you know? What do you speculate about USHER and Diddy? Do you know anything at all? If not, we'll dive into some of the headlines and highlights and things. But let me know.
Well, the whole USHER thing has had a little bit of context to it off and on over the years when Diddy has been brought up with some of his parties. Because, I mean, every one of his parties, always has a crowd that stays and then leaves at a certain time, and then all the fun begins later in the evening. So you always hear about the innocent part of his parties. And who's there and who shows up and whatnot. And there was always theory behind Diddy and him just being close friends, just like Meek Mill. So I don't know, man. It's hard to swallow because I mean I've always liked Usher as a person, just because you never have heard anything bad about him as far as gangs and your normal, artist type history. You know what I mean? As far as growing up and just the whole his whole life around him has been, doing things, helping kids. I mean, he gives money away to charities and things like that. So it's like you now all of a sudden hear something like this, and then again, over the years, you've heard speculation, but there was nothing ever to prove it. So now things are getting proven, and you're going to really wonder how much will come out on him of truth between bringing, Bieber to Diddy like an offering. So how much will all that end up being truthful, and who else
Well, that's
has
it.
done the same thing,
Yeah, 100%. Well, listen, cheers for that, Shane. John, I imagine, are you in the Wedger mobile tonight? It sounds like you are. How are you doing, my brother?
Yeah, all good. Yeah. So I'm in transit, just because
That's
it's
right.
a bit early. But yeah, all's good. Changing times. A lot of
No,
news
listen,
lately.
it's crazy. So listen, what is your cutoff point for tonight, mate?
What in respect to time or?
Yeah, in respect to time.
No,
You
I'm
got
good.
an hour?
I'm good. Yeah, I've
You're
got
good.
an
You're
hour.
good for time. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
right.
I'm happy for an hour. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, well, no, we're going to be going longer than that. It's just I really want to focus on educated opinion on a few things.
Yeah.
With regards to the P Diddy case. Now, let me just double check everyone can hear you fine. I'm just going to boost your mic a little bit.
Okay.
And if you can just can you all hear John? Okay. Just
talk first.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm on the scene. I'm here.
Yeah, I think everyone can hear you.
Yeah, he sounds good on my end. I can hear it through the mic.
For those of you who are new to the channel, John is a former police officer from the UK, specializing in child safety. That is the Cliff Notes, like skimming over how badass John Wedger is introduction, right? But let's just start at a place where we can sort of build a path, John, right? So we sort of look a lot at the UK. We have done a lot of time delving into cases that are tied together, and they paint a picture of corruption at best, but some sort of underlying club at worst. Can we, for this evening, we're going to jump across the pond. We're looking at the P Diddy case, right? And we're looking at the concept of power and control from a celebrity point of view, whether it's through blackmail, whether it's people like Justin Bieber, who looked up to and had an almost an idol figure to begin with in these individuals, and then of course the progression of a young mind. For example, Bieber again, where he goes from allegedly seeing things or having things done to being a fully grown man who looks broken to me, and what he's held inside, and delve into how prominent you feel that is. So let's start with your take on the Diddy case. Just hit me with what you know.
Well, the thing is, I mean, America's experiencing what we've been going through over the last 10 years in respect to celebrities. And of course, when we had the Savile expose, it was what was behind it. You've got to draw parallels between it. And Savile, there was rumours about him being a PDF file, and there were even allegations that got made to the police, but it was covered up. And we've seen very similar traits, but behind it were thousands, probably, but at the very least hundreds of vulnerable children coming from care homes, hospitals, infirmaries, places where they were reliant on the system to protect them, and it exposed them to this monster. And of course, in the stuff we've done, we look at the victimology and the fact that the victims of these things go on, sometimes on the whole, to have a dysfunctionality, a lot of pain, a wound that doesn't really heal properly, and that gets patched up with self-medication such as alcohol and drugs. And then if we look, we go back to the 80s. We had this phenomenon in the UK called the wild child people like Mandy Smith, who at the age of 15 met Bill Wyman, who was 50 years old and a member of the Rolling Stones. There was another one called Emma. I can't remember her name. Emma Forbes. So there was a girl called. There was about 3 of them. These young girls that were 15, similar to Justin Bieber. You know, just going out into this adult world and seemingly loving it. But then years later, decades later, you know, these people are harrowed by their experiences and badly damaged because they're victims of abuse. Now, Justin Bieber, we saw it with Macaulay Culkin, the other lad, I can't remember his name. He actually got in touch with me. He was
Was it the
quite a
Coreys? Was it one of
American.
was it one of the Coreys?
Corey Feldman, yeah, we had communication quite a bit, myself and Corey, because they've been following sort of, you know, the work that I was putting out there, and you know, we're seeing that, you know, that these people end up suffering with addictions and personality disorders. But what I find amazing with this, Ron, is that all these people tell us what they are. Savile told us what he was. He did that infamous interview with I think Andrew Neil, where he said, "I'm feared in every girls' school in the country."
Yeah.
You know, and the fact of the matter, he was.
It's funny you bring that up, John, because we touched on that in the Daily Show where we found an interview where Diddy said the same thing. He was like, you know, my parties are legendary, but the after parties should get me arrested. You know,
this is what I was coming to. I was building up to that because they've got this saying, "Oh, there's no party like a Diddy party," and you know, he was being interviewed by Graham Norton. They had Sarah Milligan and an American comedy actor there, and they were all this tongue-in-cheek joking about Diddy parties and, you know, they're this and they're that. Now, but what happens in a Diddy party stays in a Diddy party. So let's break that down.
Yeah.
You know, if we, you know, like we do on this program, let's treat this like an investigation. If he was sat in an interview room with me now, I would spend a half an hour on that question. Well, what do you mean? You know, what happens at Diddy party stays at Diddy party. Now, if we have a party, right, what is it that we wouldn't talk about? Now, if you had a missus and you got off with another girl, you might think, oh, that could cost me my marriage. It's best we don't mention that. Sort of understand that. But apart from that, what else is there that you wouldn't mention? Now, I'm at a loss to think all the parties I've been to, you know, and I'm not saying I'm the tamest person, but I mean, I'm not into wife swapping. I've never been married anyway, but I'm not into swinging. I'm not into orgy. I've never been to these things, and I don't want to go either. But so say that aside, what goes on in a party that you don't want to talk about? I'm at a loss because there's nothing I would do that, you know, what, sniffing cocaine, smoking a joint.
I see your point, yeah.
You know, where is it that we would say that this is beyond the pale? But if then we started indulging in orgies, you might be thinking, oh my word. But on another thing, you know, it might be.
Wait, John, just for a second. Let's say you did indulge in a consenting adult party and you were tongue-in-cheek talking about it. Oh, hey, listen, the Wedger after parties. But you wouldn't say, I would get arrested. You would say, that's where things get out of control or whatever. You certainly wouldn't be saying, would be arrested. It's a very...
Also, you'd probably boast about it because there were guys I worked with were degenerates, and they would go to them parties. They'd come to work and tell everyone, "Yeah, I had a threesome, I had this, I had that." You know, they'd tell everyone, and you were going, "Oh, yeah." You joke about it, but it wouldn't be. Shh, don't say anything. Now, it comes back down to the blackmail that the intelligence services used to do, right? So we discussed this before. If you was to blackmail someone, a politician, and you was to film for the purposes of espionage, you was to film a party, and there's a guy there who gets off with another woman, and he's married, and he's a politician. Now, in the 1940s, that would be disgraceful. You know, staunch Christian values, absolutely disgraceful, right? So the swinging 60s come along. Well, everyone was at it. you know, and then the swinging party started happening and all this stuff. So really, what a problem. If anything, they'd say, what a boy. You know, you only got to look at the old Carry On films. They're all based on
And
adultery.
even yeah, and well, even from like non-adultery, like a sense of you know, blackmail material. What better material than somebody who's been awake for 2 days out there not being secretly filmed in, you know, compromising scenarios? It is a tried and tested tool.
Well, the thing is, let's go through it then. You know,
Okay, yeah.
One of the other things, which actually, up until 1963 would have got someone in prison, would have been homosexuality. It was illegal. And it was illegal to join the armed forces up until, I think, 1992 or something like that as a homosexual. So you could bribe someone with that because it had bribery value. And now, again, people are praised for openly getting outed. People like George Michael was infamous one that, you know, stood up. So what? I'm gay. That's that. Get on with it. And everyone praised him for it. So you can't use that as a lever anymore. Cocaine, again. You get MPs like Jeremy Osborne caught with it and all that. And again, nothing really is done. But the PDF files, having sex with underage people, there's yet to be any part of the world which sees it as normal. Even when they've done, I always struggle with the word, anthropological studies, and they did it in two places. One was some Amazonian region, the other one was Papua New Guinea, and they found in these isolated indigenous communities, anyone caught having an interest in a child is banished to the jungle for a period of no less than 2 years on their own. So even in these so-called, not to denigrate these people, maybe savage communities, that is still a no-no. At no point has anywhere said it's allowed. So therefore,
well, here, listen,
it has blackmail value. Hello?
I've got up religion and what is interpreted child. You still there, John? You still there?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'm here.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
So my pushback against that would be, if that's from a data point of view, I think there's a large portion of the world that I could argue that hide behind religion.
Can you hear me okay?
As us that consider a woman of adulthood the day that she has, say, her first period, that can sometimes be an 11, 12, or 13-year-old. And in certain societies, that is seen as a woman. Do you think that offsets what you see as this non-conforming to the PDF sort of mindset?
Okay, but there is a chart called the Age of Consent chart, and there was a group of perverts that would visit various countries that had lower ages of consent. I think you'll struggle to find one that's got an age of consent lower than 14. I think you'll struggle. I know in Islam, kids can, you know, and it was, you know, is it Prophet Muhammad did marry Aisha at the age of 6 and consummated the relationship at the age of 9. So I think in respect to the religion of Islam, that, you know, there is this low age in which these things can happen. But I think,
so do you think that offsets? Do you think that
because the law of the land will say no. The law of the land will say no, unless, you know, we end up with Sharia law. The law of the land says no. This isn't allowed.
100%. I was just like I say, I just wondered if that was almost like a misuse of data in that
Well, it could be used as an excuse. You know, I mean, we're talking about deceptive people. We can use an excuse, but if we go back,
actually, listen, can someone in the side chat tell me if it's me that's cutting in and out or if it's John?
Yeah, I get
because
it's both you guys,
right? It's both you, right? Okay, bear with me, everybody. I'm just checking some settings. Okay. Also, as well, technically, religious beliefs and marrying at that young age and PDF files as we know them, arguably, it's a debate to be had. But you could say that it's a different mindset in the two. It's still wrong and horrible and outrageous, but arguably we could say the mindset is different. But I mean, it's still outrageous and horrible. It doesn't make a difference. My brain's, you know, I'm having trouble controlling the intrusive thoughts.
Totally lost you now.
Like, can you hear me, John?
Hello.
Hello. Okay, right, John. If you can hear me, can you hear me? Shane, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ron, I can hear you. John, can you hear me?
Right, I've lost
John
you.
may need to.
Yeah,
Yeah, John, you may need
you
to.
broke then. I lost you for a little while.
All right, I'm going to be quiet and let you carry on with what you were saying, John. I apologize.
There's
Can you
some
hear me?
interference there.
It may be MI5 closing in on you, John. Can you hear me? Oh man, why did it sound
I
like
just
someone
lost
just?
you then. Are you back?
Yeah, we're
Can you
back.
hear
We're
me
back.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on with what
Yeah.
you're saying, mate. Carry on. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah. I mean, but what we're looking at is a leakage, and there has been leakage all the way through. Now let's just look at this man, right? Certain things puzzle me, and one of the biggest ones, having worked with survivors of ritual abuse and S abuse for many years, you get a thing called DID, dissociated identity disorder, and people will have alters which will have different names, so they will have multiple personalities. Now I'm always and you get it. It's quite endemic in the survivor community, mainly with the when they've endured horrific abuse and things like that. So and they can refer to themselves in the third person or with an alter. Um, Now, this guy, Sean Combs, he refers to himself in about 5 different alters. He's got Puff Daddy, and again, can you still hear me all right? Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear
John,
you
you're
fine,
good.
John. We can hear you fine.
Yeah. And, Puff Daddy, now, what my take on that, now, I don't know if, American slang too well, but Puff over here is synonymous with cannabis, and Daddy would be that, a bit like the daddy in the prison, he's in charge of it. So for me, that sort of gives away that he's the king drug dealer. That's my take on it. Then he changed it to
Yeah.
P Diddy. I mean, what does that even mean, P Diddy? And then then just Diddy or whatever. And then he went down to call. Now this more recent one, he calls himself Love. So he's a man with multiple characters, and he seems to change them quite a bit. Now, does that mean that his personality changes with them? Is this a man who has got DID as a result of childhood trauma? And if we look at his childhood, it is traumatic. But he was brought up in early years in poverty in Harlem. His father was executed because his father was a drug dealer involved in organised crime. So his father had connections to the Italian mafia. His mother was very hard on him, and he sort of seems to have this um, like love and fear of his mother in the same way Jimmy Savile had. He when he's
Good
being
point.
interviewed, Sean Combs, he goes on about his mum being the centre of his life, the love of his life, and the one he fears most, and it smacks a lot of Savile when he would speak about his mum. Um, and of course he then gets involved in the music industry and is caught up in so many shenanigans. There's murders, attempted murders around him. He's caught with firearms. He's got no need to be caught up in this life because he's got an income, a lucrative income from the money. He got
Yeah.
caught up with Jennifer Lopez. Now I know a guy who grew up with Jennifer Lopez. He's a very well-known fella, Puerto Rican guy, in from the same neighbourhood, the South Bronx. And he told
Okay.
me, he said she is so into Santeria, which
Oh
is
yeah, we talked about
the South American voodoo. He said, John, she won't even have a mirror in her house, right? Because she doesn't even want to look at her own reflection. He says she's heavily involved in Santeria, and he openly states this anyway, this guy. So I'm only passing on third hand what he's, second hand what he's told me, right? Now, also when we look at organised crime, especially when you've got organised criminals that come from the Caribbean communities, Haitian, Jamaican, they too have a strong connection with a thing called Obia, which is a same derivative as Santeria, but it's just been sort of tweaked for their part of the world. We got the Mexican cartels are very much involved in Santa Muerte and Jesus Malverde and things like that. So they go to these dark religions as protection. So maybe he's got a connection with that as well, you know, and maybe part of what he does is something that's caught up in this demonic worship that he does. I don't know this guy,
Well,
but he's a
I've
very dark character.
got one for you, John. Right. So I've been saying all week this analogy, right, where if we look at how Christians worship, okay, you've got Christians who are very conservative. Go to worship. We'll go out
We
on the
lost
street
you
with
for
a
a minute,
Bible.
Ron. There you
Right.
go.
Okay. I'll start again. So you've got some people who go to church on a Sunday, worship, practice their religion in an organized place, right? That's safe, and they can do it very, very conservatively. Then you've got other people who'll go out on the street with a Bible and wave it around. What if P. Diddy's worship is the more extrovert and out there compared to, say, Oprah, who is more reserved, who does it in a private place? Do you think that we're just seeing a flamboyant member of an almost a cabal
Yeah,
of these
I,
individuals, and
I yeah,
he's just like the playboy of the group almost, if you
yeah.
see what he's the one that's willing to be out there and throwing these parties and worship and all the rest of it, because I think so too. But before you give me your response, John, can we all just make sure we're sharing this? If you've just joined us, make sure you like and subscribe, make sure you're all subscribed up, but make sure you share. We need the help on streams like this. Now, what's your
Well,
take on that potential, him
yeah.
being just a
I agree. They're all connected. I think they are, and we sort of saw that with Savile. You know, the connectivity he had and the protection he had and where it came from. And yeah, as far as the royal family, you know, and we've already seen that people high up in the royal family, like Mountbatten, have allegedly been called PDF files by law enforcement. That, you know, the CIA put a warning out about Mountbatten that he is a PDF file. You know, so you know, and connected to royal family, Jimmy Savile connected to them. We've seen so many PDF files connected to the BBC. So yeah, guilty, and I would say guilty by association here. But the other thing that with me is, you know, when I was in working as a detective, and when we were doing the profiling on you know, our suspects, our PDF files, our child traffickers.
yeah,
You know, I worked with one of the best that there was at the time, and there's a guy that was based in Southern Ireland, so I'd spend quite a bit of time with this fella.
sure,
And he said to me, Michael Jackson is 100% a PDF file. And he explained
okay,
it because at the time there was rumours about him. And we all sat down once, and the question was, what about Jackson? He said, oh, my word, I'm glad you told me. Look, this guy is telling you what he is. You know, he's a very damaged, broken individual. He's, without a doubt, a survivor of abuse himself. He's openly got a liking for young boys. He's showing you, he's telling you, you know, don't be fooled that he's just this child who never grew up. It's a lie. He's telling you what he
yeah,
is, and if you can't see it,
okay,
you
okay,
shouldn't be in this line of work. And that was his line on it. And of course we're seeing this now with Justin Bieber sort of being around this guy P Diddy, Love, Puff Daddy, whatever. I'm just going to call him what his mum called him, Sean. I can't.
can I ask you, John? Have you seen the video footage of Justin Bieber age 15 with Puff Daddy? It's a 2 minute long video. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I see the
it's
more recent one, and he just looks broken.
yeah.
You know,
As an
and
adult, yeah, 100%. The recent stuff. I mean, when you look at him celebrating his new baby and things like this, and in the recent images, he has. You know, when I say he's got that Macaulay Culkin as an adult vibe,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
You know, definitely his behaviour was bizarre. He would go and spit on his crowds, and you know, and he was full of himself. But you know, when he's your 15-year-old with Sean Combs. What is a grown man doing with a young 15-year-old boy? If we was to turn this around and it was a 40-year-old school teacher taking a 15-year-old pupil home and saying we had the best time ever, mate, he'd be arrested. You know,
Yeah.
the problem is with our society is we hero worship. I mean, I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know, they idolise. There's a need for adulation, idolatry, and everything else on these dysfunctional, wretched people,
Yeah.
and they get blinded. Then you get this cognitive dissonance, which disallows any bad word or bad vibe about these people. They just say, well, that's just rock and roll. That's just this. No, it's not. It's PDF filing. That's what it is. And they're
Okay.
telling you, they are
I,
telling you what they're doing.
I want to just put something in perspective for people, right? So when we look at Usher, okay, Usher obviously brought Bieber to Diddy, right? Do you think that if we wanted to really sort of delve into the sort of cabal society, do you think that maybe Usher was given an option to bring new blood, or you know, bring
Yeah,
his own blood, effectively,
yeah,
his children, family, whatever, and that's why Bieber was brought? And
yeah,
when we talk about a 14-year-old John, right? Because we were talking today, you know, why did he do it? He was already a millionaire. He had his own money. He didn't need a Lambo or anything like this. He's still a 14-year-old boy.
yeah,
Do you see
yeah. I
what I
know.
mean?
Yeah, I'm
And
totally with you, and I agree. I think, look, if we have parties, right? And
yeah,
I used to go to a bar in Soho
yeah,
in London, and it was run by an ex gangster, a porn boss of Soho,
okay,
and a bloke called John Angius Rizzo. Can Google him. He was this big porn kingpin. And what he used to do was he used to let the old Bill drink in this manky old bar of his for free back in the day. And he used
yeah,
to tell us, you know, about the police coming here, I've been drinking, I've always paid the police off. And he would give me a whole rundown of police corruption throughout the 70s. And he said, you know, if we ever got raided, I'd take their warrant cards off them and I'd stash them in the freezer and everything else. And he said, the last thing you ever want to do is have any sort of camera or anything like that, because it might incriminate the coppers having a snidey drink, but it incriminates you even more. Right. So if we have in these parties, which are infamous for tongue in cheek and things we shouldn't mention, the last thing you want to do is to film it. It will be the last thing you want to do, because it's going to
yeah,
incriminate you. It's going to get you. It's a bit like in the police custody years ago, right? They put CCTV in, but you know, who did that protect? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you know, there were some appalling things went on, and they went on because there was no cameras there. You know, and they would say, well, also, you know, it protects us. It stops false allegations being made. Let me tell you now that when a false allegation was made, it was 1 in 1,000. You know, usually when they
yeah,
allege something, it pretty much happened. You know, so why would you, as a civilian, a pop star, a man known for bad behaviour, start
yeah,
putting cameras in your own private residence? It's at the very least, it's perverted, right? But at the top end of scale, it's very manipulative, and it smacks to me of organised spying, organised espionage. You know, and I
yeah.
think,
I completely agree. But that's, again, we get back to the blackmail, the power and control, and that's one of the key points. But John, we've got a live conference of Sean, you know, P. Daddy Combs' accuser holds press conference. Let's just see what's going on here, John,
right,
because this
okay,
is
The
breaking.
lawsuit also alleges that, quote, defendant Combs and another defendant published and or disseminated the video without plaintiff's knowledge or consent. On information and belief, defendants have continued to disseminate the video, including by selling it as pornography through the present, end quote.
This is literally what they're talking about, John. They're talking about
yeah,
people being filmed and it's sold as a consensual content. Let's keep going, John. Just bear with me.
Copies of the video that are in their actual or constructive possession, custody, or control, end quote. and that, quote, defendant should be temporarily and permanently enjoined from further disseminating or publishing any intimate videos of plaintiff, end quote. We also allege in the third cause of action that Combs and another defendant committed a violation of New York City Administrative Code, Section 10-180, quote, recording and showing others the video of themselves.
Okay, so I'm leaving the subtitles up just I just want to risk too much copywriting, and we'll cut in and out of this. But John, let's just skip forward a minute, because one thing I want to discuss is control and power. And obviously it goes without saying, if somebody films you doing something or puts you in a situation where you feel like you're doing something for them that is out of character, it's videotaped. Like you've just said, no one is going to be doing that to incriminate themselves. You might have some pervy people that secretly do it for their own stash, whatever. But when we're talking about celebrity and power on this level, there's no other way of putting it but as a control and blackmail tool. There's no other way, right?
Well, that's the only reason I would think anyone would do it. It's otherwise it'd be like we're all being filmed. We're going to have a massive orgy and we're going to put this on some porn site, you know, and be open about it. But they're not doing that, you know. And of course, and I bet a lot of these now, Coombs may well be the subject to some bizarre perverted recording, but probably in the same way as his victims are, that it's used as a blackmail tool against him, you know. So I think he's been blackmailing people. He's been giving them what they want. But let's look at this individual, right? He's a woman beater, right? So he's been accused of it. He's a controlling man, right? He's isolated his girlfriend, and the other thing is, you know, his girlfriend is decades his junior, decades. That I know it might not be illegal, but I think it's wrong on a moral level. He needs to grow up. What is he doing?
Forget even the moral level. Forget even the moral level. If you've got a track record for manipulation and being the G word that rhymes with rumor, this is how you get your targets to fall in line. It's these young minds, and even if you're telling me that you don't think there's some 20-year-olds who need to do some growing up, you're crazy.
Well, also what you do is you get your young 20-year-old girlfriend, and she's got more of a connection to 14-year-olds than a 55-year-old would have, because that's his age. He's 55 years old. So again, this is what these GR rumors do. The other thing is when we look at him as he's a bully, you know, he's got a history of domestic abuse and things like that. So he's not a nice man, which would indicate that this man has got deep-rooted emotional issues, you know, stemming back to abandonment and rejection, probably from his mother. So there'll be deep-rooted issues with his mother. He seems to have an obsession with his mother. So I'm drawing parallels with him and Savile straight away.
Let's just talk about a second when you brought up the point there of his public displays of violence towards women, right? We've all seen that video in the hotel. You know, as a former policeman, you'll have cases where a domestic violent individual snaps in public and maybe slaps their partner or whatever. But it's usually a moment where they snap and lose control, and it is you know, something that happens in the second. When you see somebody, John, dragging a woman by her ankles through a public hotel lobby, kicking her in the head, punching her, throwing things at her, what is this man then capable when no one is looking?
I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. This is very similar, and I've alluded to this many times when I interviewed the murderer of little baby Peter Connolly.
Hang on, John. I'm sorry to interrupt you, John. Right, I'm sorry, John. Just to get back to the point, I'm just going to cut to see what's going on with this testimonial. I'm really sorry, John. That was really rude, mate. I'm so sorry. You remember what point we're at, right? Because I just want to cut into this, mate. Yeah, we good?
Yeah. Go.
After being sexually assaulted has been incredibly deep and hard to put into words. It goes beyond just physical harm caused by and during the assault. It's a pain that reaches into your very core of who you are and leaving emotional scars that may never fully heal. Some of the hardest parts of this pain are the shame and the guilt I have experienced that plays a negative part in my day-to-day ability to function properly. Being blamed, questioned, and threatened has often made me feel worthless, isolated, and sometimes responsible for what happened to me. My family issues made the pain even worse. I was already going through a divorce at the time of the assault and did not get the support that I needed. I was also faced with disbelief and judgment. This has put a strain on my selection of men and relationships. But many relationships became aggressive and abusive, which has made me feel even more alone in my struggles.
All right, John, I'm sure this is one of many survivor stories that you've heard. What is your first impression?
This is a survivor of domestic abuse, and this is what they do. They put the blame on them. You know, they protract it onto them, call them all sorts of names, isolate them, and you see, she mentioned something that even she felt guilty. Now, I'm reading between the lines. He probably used this girl to get other girls involved. So she will probably be harbouring a lot of guilt herself, and there may be indictable offences that she's committed and she's frightened. So I think she'll be looking at cutting a deal with the police, which is okay. You can deal with that. This is something that happens a lot, but it's another reason for silence. Get that person involved in the commission of the crime, and therefore you buy their silence. This is exactly what he's done with this girl, I'm assuming, right? He is a wife-beating bully. He's a nasty man. That would stem from his childhood. That would stem from his mother, and other influences. The other thing that's very odd about this guy, he boasts about losing his virginity consensually at the age of 12, and then proclaiming that he's as good as any porn star because he was addicted at the age of 12 to watching blue films. So again, you've got a man who's very, very charged in that manner, you know, influenced in that manner, and starting to build up an egotistical profile that he's the best lover going at the age of 12. I mean, at the age of 12, at the age of 12, what was you doing? I mean, I was going out
It's
on
the
bikes
dangers
and
of sexualization too young. And
it's incredible. It's toxic. It's damaging.
Wild. It's really wild.
I mean, it's different if it's unconsensual and someone is a victim of the abuse. We're not saying that, you know, that, but when you've chosen to lose your virginity at the age of 12, it's so dirty. It's so weird. And what situation would he be in that would allow him to do that? A very
100%.
very dysfunctional one at that. And then we got to look at this man and his partners. He was making his young partner, decades his junior, rent these guys, rent boys or whatever they're called, I don't know what they call them, male prostitutes, rent them to come round en masse and have it off with her for hours on end until she needed medical treatment. And he would sit there masturbating, watching. Listen, I don't care what anyone says in his defence, because I don't think he's got one. This is a very twisted, dirty man. And you know, and the same as Michael Jackson, his the dramatisation, the theatrical representation of his life is one of the top West End selling things at the moment. Who on earth would want to go and watch? You know, it's a bit like watching Jimmy Savile on Ice. Why would you do it?
I'm with you. Just John, touching on what you said there about endless, you know, sex workers coming in to do the act on one woman for hours and hours. let's just focus on control tactics and the level of desire that I believe P. Diddy had when it came to being able to control and conduct these twisted debauchery acts where you have somebody, you know,
Well,
a new person over and over and over coming in, and they are doing that because you've told them. And here's another one. When it comes to heterosexual men, John, being paid to do non-heterosexual things, is that not one of the, that surely has to be one of the ultimate, I've made you do this, control God tier mindsets for a person like that. God complex. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is, and also acts like sodomy are used in mind control. They were used in the Greco-Roman gladiatorial schools to get total acquiescence, total submission. It's used in prisons to totally destroy someone's will. You know, it's the ultimate tool of control. It's definitely used in SRA. In many of the rituals, the I will rituals all rely on sodomy as a tool for acquiescence and total control and coercion. This is a very twist. See what gets me. This is one thing that riles me, and hopefully we can discuss this. You know, when we go on about Al Fayed as well. Around this snake, P Diddy, Puff Daddy, Love, whatever the worm wants to call himself, right? Is an entourage of so-called hard men in security. Now, let me call out to all of them, and call out also to the security that the ex-forces guys, the ex-police guys that were around Al Fayed. Do you know what? You need to speak out now. You need to get on board, right, with the victims and survivors of these people and tell them everything you know. Because if you don't, you're a coward. And you are a coward, because in order for the triumph of evil, it takes but for good men to do nothing. And you are allowed in evil to triumph because you're in a position to do something about that and to give the victims and survivors the last remnants of healing that they deserve, and that is justice, right? And they can do that. So I call out to all these security, all these ex-forces guys, all these ex-police guys that were wrapped around, and all the ex-hard men gangsters wrapped around these two people, P. Diddy, Love, whatever, and I've heard, start speaking out. Start telling the world what you witnessed, what you saw. You would have seen young girls coming out in pain. You would have seen young boys in pain. You would have heard rumours of the R word, you know, a male R. And there would have been at the
snitching, it ain't snitching when it's kids involved.
Of course it ain't. No. It's doing the right thing. And and at the very least, they will be coming out of there heavily traumatized and in tears, totally disillusioned, 100%. And the whole sort of world shattered. You know, would you just get enough money to buy another Rolex and ignore it? It's not good enough. And, you know, so that's what I would do. You know,
we had a quote today, which was very interesting, from a guy who worked with Diddy who was interviewed. And he said, you know, Diddy at 50 is so far gone in his ego that he ain't imagining jail for Diddy at 50. And he'd perfected sneaking him in and getting him out. And it was interesting because, you know, when people know things, but they can't say the things because they'll just be shot in the head. There's a lot of that going on with some of the interviews with the people around Diddy, the lower end of the celebrity scale, shall we say. And you can see that there's obviously a lot of fear people have, but whether that's fear of repercussion, fear of being associated with crimes, or a fear of taking part, whether consensually or under the influence or whatever, how widespread across Hollywood do you think this has got?
Well, it just goes to show what actually controls it. You know, is it firearms? I wouldn't have thought so, no, because you'd get them from anywhere. Is it the drugs, the cocaine? Again, you can come off that, you can move on to something else. And it always comes down, I've said this, it's the children that are behind it all. It is the children that are the biggest weapon that are used. And that will be behind everything. That will be behind the mafia, behind global politics, behind organised crime, and it will be the abuse of children. I've always maintained that. And the more time goes on, the more I'm proved right on that point. And it's because people have been wrapped up in this. These are broken, emotionally broken, damaged people. Anyone else would just get a normal job. They wouldn't need.
Well, do you know what, John? We often talk, right? you're religious, I'm religious, but we're very much cut from different cloths.
Yeah.
And you know, I realized something about magic, right? The powers of the world. There's either love or hate, right? And these
Yeah.
damaged people, whether they're abused or they're born this way, the ones that, you know, torture and hurt animals as a
Yeah.
child, these sort of people,
Yeah. I'm with
they,
you.
they, they are incapable of love. And
Yeah.
when we see these individuals who torture and who destroy innocent life in worship of heinous creatures, shall we say,
Yeah.
they're incapable. It's like almost like an incapability of putting love out there in any form. And those people are the ones who will only be remembered in their circles. There's no
Yeah.
public knowledge
Well,
because
well, what
hate
is it?
and pure evil, John, doesn't live on
It
unless
doesn't.
only in tight
Well,
only in tight circles.
the problem is with it, what happens is the next 3 generations living in pain. And it's the
Yeah,
victims who live on and suffer, not them, because these
yeah,
are people that are just inherently selfish and are only interested in the here, now, and the gratification. You know, which is what we're
yeah,
getting with this guy. You know, it's a bit like if you've got a friendship that you've made from a pub, and you go in the pub and everyone loves you while you're sitting there drinking, and then you start getting ill because you're becoming addicted to alcohol, you're becoming a pisshead and everything else. And the moment you turn around
yeah,
and say, "Do you know what, this is no good for me," then friends don't want to know you because you're not enabling their bad behaviour either. A good friend should say, "Do you know what, mate, call it a day. You're drinking too much, your health's suffering, you
yeah,
need it at home."
yeah,
That's what a good friend would say, but they won't. They'll say, "No, fuck F, you only live once, have another drink, come on," because you're enabling and
yeah.
justifying their bad
It's
behaviour
true.
as well. And it's the same as this.
Yeah,
It's the same as this.
it's true.
You know. Uh,
It's
uh,
it's 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 summarized very simply as when people drag you down with them.
of
It's
course.
like if I'm an alcoholic and you know, I don't want to drink alone, you're trying to, you know, do better in your life, and as long as I can drag you down with me, I can justify what I'm doing,
Well,
and it
well,
spreads like a
well,
toxicity in the PDF world because,
well,
John, you know yourself, I've seen conversations in dark web communities where
yeah,
there's nothing more exciting to PDF files than a new PDF file who needs to learn the ropes, and it's scary how they take each other under their wings. It's
yeah,
wild,
yeah.
wild.
They'll be nice and endearing to them because they want something from them or that they're benefiting. It's the same as when they find a victim, they'll be nice to them. They'll be, you know, but until it comes to doing what they want to do, and then you'll see the monster. And it comes back to
Yeah,
this thing earlier that we was discussing about him kicking his girlfriend in the head and whatever in front of everyone.
yeah,
He, you know, that was the beast inside was oblivious, and this he can contain most of the time. When I interviewed Tracy Connolly, the mother of baby P, right? When I interviewed her, she was controlled, very controlled, very
yeah,
intelligent, and very manipulative. But the moment I outwitted her, the inner monster couldn't contain itself. And you saw in a heartbeat her going from smiley and complimentary to F you see you next Tuesday and spitting in my face. In a heartbeat, I mean a heartbeat. And I said, yes, that's the monster your boy sees, isn't it? When no one's about. So what we saw with him doing that was the monster that his girlfriend
yeah.
and his victims always sees. That's the
That's a
monster they see.
brilliant.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
brilliant take. That's exactly it. You nailed it. It's the
yeah.
manifestation of the demon, metaphorically speaking, of course. Stick in
He,
whatever word you want that's good for you.
he,
Um,
he's getting away with it because he's given people what they wanted. And some of these people are powerful with money, and he's got dirt on them. That's why he's getting. It's going to be interesting to see what
yeah,
Jennifer Lopez knows. That there was a really um, interesting interview by a woman who she went out with Ian Watkins, you know, the Lost Prophets singer, who got 40 years for
oh
absolute
mate,
depravity to babies, right? And
yeah,
his former girlfriend turned around and said, from the moment you meet this man, you are under no illusion that he has a liking for very young children, right? You're under no
yeah,
illusion. right? And she spoke out, and they tried to take her kid into care and everything. They did everything to not get this case to court. It was covered up by South Wales Police twice. It was awful, right? I'm not saying she knows anything, but Fern Cotton went out with him for 2 years. We don't
Yeah, she
hear
did.
her once. We don't hear
No.
her once coming forward and saying anything derogatory about that man. You know, yet we see her all over the TV. And this is another example
What can I ask?
of how this works.
Is Fern Cotton associated with any particular companies? Like, was she part of the BBC radio team?
I'm not sure, but one of the things we do know that was a connection that Ian Watkins had with the satanic leaning group OTO, and we had Peaches Geldof was an avid member of it. Now I heard from a good source that Peaches Geldof turned her life around. She had dabbled in drugs, and she had done this and done that, and she was involved in this OTO, this Crowley-esque satanic group. But she become a mother, and she would become a model mother, and totally turned her back on everything. And of course, that's not allowed, is it? And the next thing, she dies of some, unexpected heroin overdose. And the info I got was she was clean. She had totally turned her life around and was attacking these groups, saying it's wrong. Her loyalty had gone. So, we might see repercussions. We saw it in Northern Ireland with the sectarianist terrorist groups, when people would be caught as trading information with the British government or to the other side or whatever. And then there would be punishment beatings going off left, right and centre, people getting murdered. The message going out, you all need to keep your mouth shut. And if we see the same, we know that, again, it's some form of terrorism, some secret society at work putting the message out. They've got one of ours, but they can't get any more. As I say, Jennifer Lopez, it'd be interesting to know what he knows, what she knows, sorry.
Yeah,
Apparently
100%.
And all the others that are wrapped around this guy. I know 50 Cent is speaking out against him.
I think it's going to come down entirely to what their form of worship is, John. If they're flamboyant and go to these parties to conduct their ritualistic madness, there's more likely they're going to be in the crossfire, in the same way as if they choose to do it more in the private ritualistic housings that they have for this sort of stuff that keeps people locked away and keeps it out of public eye. They're less likely to. But I'll tell you something. I want to just focus on control, okay? Because we need to just, for the rest of this, we're going to discuss as if there is a cabal, okay? People like Diddy were bringing in people like USHER, and USHER had to offer up an individual like BIEBER, keeping the whole cycle going, knowing that they have to, based off of how powerful, terrifying Diddy is, the potential blackmail material. And, John, I've spoken myself to survivors of abuse who were abused from 5 up to, they're almost their 30s, who by their abuser were forced to do horrific things to animals, to young kids, all these things. Now, at no point would I ever consider her wanting to do these things. So we have to keep in our minds that if at 17, 18, 19, you were made to do something to a 13, 14-year-old, and that is in your brain because you've been conditioned to do it, that is going to be hung out for the rest of your life.
We discussed this the other week, and with the 27 Club, and I have genuine belief that Amy Winehouse ended up in a situation she didn't want to be in. I think she was probably a very good person, and she was struggling to live with her memories, and maybe her involvement.
I agree.
And of course it makes them dangerous to the other side as well. And then we've got to look at people like Lil Wayne and all these others that got, and Beyonce and Jay-Z clearly displaying a cultic symbolism and a cultic leaning, in their words, in their symbolism, in their actions, in what goes on in their videos. I mean, who's that one? Is it Nas, Lil Nas, who's selling those night trainers?
Oh yeah.
£660 a pair with blood in them, and his video is he's riding the phallus of the devil in his video. Clearly demonic, and
Yeah, 100%. It was wild. That came out of nowhere as well. It was this wild,
they
in your
they
face
are
statement, but
telling us.
it was undermined as like, oh, we finally have a black gay rapper who's going to be openly gay and own it. And it was sold to the public on Twitter as this like iconic moment for the internet. But the subtle it wasn't even subtle. It was literally banging the devil at one point. It was
Yeah.
mental, absolute mental.
I mean,
So
even the Rolling Stones had a song "Sympathy for the Devil," and they're
yeah,
they are telling you what they're doing, and we just ain't listening. We think it's all tongue in cheek, and we make excuses for these people because of their mastery of singing or of playing a guitar or whatever. But I ask those who listen to this, right?
yep,
We know who P Diddy is. I've never listened to his stuff. I think the man's a degenerate. I think he needs to pay for it because he's an ugly-looking guy anyway, with his buck teeth and everything else. And, I wouldn't have thought women find him attractive. Um, you, you know, but we hear about all these people, right? But they are
yeah,
degenerates, right? When we look at what they serve one thing: they serve themselves. But how many people have heard of Gennady Mokanenko? Or Julian St. John? Now, let me tell you about these people. Gennady Mokanenko is a former Ukrainian soldier, stroke fireman, and then he become a Christian pastor. He dedicates his
okay,
life to getting homeless children out of drug addiction, saving their lives and out of abuse. He then finds these young
yeah,
rent boys, drug addicts. He cleans them up. He finds out who's been pimping them, and he goes and batters the daylights out the pimps and takes them to the police station. He has saved something like 200 children. We'd never heard of him. Julian St. John goes and picks up
yeah.
autistic kids that are used for witchcraft rituals off the streets of Tanzania. He saved thousands of kids. Never even heard about them. This is our value system as human
Do you know
beings.
what? Do you know what, John? Right? That's a really good point. I think we should do a whole month of, instead of talking about the monsters, let's talk about some of the heroes
The
out there,
heroes,
because
they are
you are
heroes.
completely right. You're right. There's so many unsung, I don't want to say vigilante, but people that take the situation into their own hands out there. And we do so much talking of one side. So maybe we be the one the one show on YouTube that throughout October doesn't look at the most terrifying cases, but we look
Yeah.
at the most insane acts of vigilantism for saving kids, because I think that's something that's under talked about. Now, before we carry on, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you like and share. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, at home on your telly, on your couch, get the remote, just do the clicky click, share, like. Please, can we do that? If we're into the sort of last hour of this, if we can push this up and try and get 600, 700, 800 on YouTube, that would be amazing for the algorithm. And John, really, the 27 Club is something that people need to dive into. We can't cover it all tonight, but it's a scary repeating pattern, and it's something that yourself. There's a bigger story too, and with this
Yeah.
cabal and the control, the witchcraft,
Yeah.
all the rest of it. What do you think with regards to P Diddy and with regards to his party? What do you think the level of horrors that could have been witnessed there? Do you think that there was a ritualistic side? Do you
Yeah,
think it would have been
yeah,
more conventional
definitely.
abuse? What do you think?
Definitely. I think the actual roots of this, the funding of this, will be in total and utter darkness. Will be in ritualistic, satanic, whatever it might be. Again, as I mentioned,
Yeah,
Jennifer Lopez. My informant told me that she is so heavily involved in Santeria. Again, the devil is the prince of the airwaves. That is his medium. He was the angelic king of the choir of angels. So will be his thing. Will be through the music, through the singing, and everything else. So this guy, this is what he's doing. He's a recruiter. He's an organizer. He's a ground wizard. He's high up. He'll be many things. This fella, and part of it will be to keep this machine running, and it will work on the children, because that's the fuel. That's what they're wanting. But you need someone from within to speak out about it, to have a backbone and speak out and say, look, this is what I saw happen. This is what. I had one guy. He's an architect, and he said, and he used to design banks. And he said when he used to design the big Wall Street financial institutions, he said they'll call it the room at the top, and there will be a room at the very top, the annex of the building, with either one chair or 13 chairs in it, and no one would ever go in there. And it always reminds me of that film, The Devil's Advocate, where John Milton, and of course John Milton is the one who did Paradise Lost, isn't it? So the irony on there. And he was at the top, in the big grand chair, and he said it's called the Devil's Room. So it goes on everywhere, and without a doubt in the music industry, it really will.
Well,
so the problem is it's a
John,
secret, and so it don't get out.
Well, John, let's just for a second, right? Let's say he recorded everything, right? He's got everything from young underage stars right the way up to everyone he ever came to one of his parties doing something that they shouldn't. We have a witness testimony tonight discussing how he sold their content. Now, we looked at a story today where one Jaguar, I forget the lady's last name, but her first name is Jaguar, and she's been putting out exposés on Diddy for years. Now, just bear with me. So if he's already going to be selling lower end fame people's content, or regular people that he's hooked up with, or whatever, what about the possibility of a $500 million price tag on the Justin Bieber freak out? Oh, he's gone. Jaguar, right? Because when John gets back, I'll get his take on this. But sorry, John, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I lost you then.
So we've had a story put out about the possibility of a $500 million price tag that was put on Justin Bieber's party freakout video by somebody who has been very close to Diddy and had been exposing him for years. It's not out the question for a price tag like that to be a real thing, because if you imagine, I put it to the public today, that if this cabal's in place and P. Diddy is somebody who's indulging in such a flamboyant way with people and bringing them in and influencing them and getting material on them, the thought of 500 million to the top echelons of the cabal doesn't seem that much, in the grand scheme of endless wealth that these people have. So do you think that the cabal is a fan of Diddy, and he went so long because he was one of the few that were out there and making that sort of content for them? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, these parties look outlandish.
He was one strand that would give them what they want. And of course, you've got to look at the essence of this belief system, and it's all about excess. Satanism is all about excess. So these parties will all be about excess, pleasing yourself. You are God. And if you want 3 little midgets, then you'll get 3 little midgets. If you want a heap of you'll get it. And of course, who else will they be entertaining? There will be celebrities, but there'll be people you've never even heard of. And they're the real big ones. It's like when people say to me, you don't name names. Well, a lot of these names, if I mentioned them, you wouldn't even know who they were. You wouldn't even know who, because they're not all singers. They're not all actors or members of the royal family. But they are heads of this and heads of that. And
it's the ones you don't know who've been part of this for hundreds of years in generational family lineages, who by design are kept out of this. If you think that P. Diddy's are the top echelon, they are not. They're the playthings for the higher levels.
Well, look at it this way, right? Take for example, like the Rothschild family, whatever. They sold their soul years ago. They got dragon's blood flowing through them. People like P. Diddy have to buy their way. They have to trade their way. They have to sell their soul first because they're not connected. They're from the street. So they'll have to sell their soul and then earn their place within this club. And he's probably at the bottom of the pile anyway, when it comes to the hierarchy of wrongdoers and demonologists
Well,
there. He's probably right down the bottom. He's just the one who procures kids for them or whatever. I don't know.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's so relevant that people understand how secret and high up all this is. Even though Diddy's having these parties, we're not necessarily saying any of the hierarchies are at them. He's just plugged in because of how capable he is of obtaining blackmail material, for example. And when we talk about monetizing victims, Justin Bieber and Usher. I mean, just think about that from a monetizing trauma and victims point of view. I mean, that.
Well, look,
It's wild.
If you've got Justin Bieber, any merchandise is going to make you a lot of money, isn't it? So he's just a money making machine, and as long as he does what he's told, he's going to have a big career in front of him. If he doesn't, he's gone tomorrow, as we saw with Amy Winehouse. Look at Amy Winehouse. Well, you know, if you was, she probably had the best voice of any female singer of to date, right? She had style, she had class, and she had a uniqueness, a nicheness, which could, like
100%.
Elvis Presley, probably would have gone on into her 60s and made whoever manages her or anyone wrapped around her and her merchandise billions. Why would you let a commodity as precious as her go? You know, it doesn't make any business sense at all. Right.
Well, listen.
However,
John,
if she's going against it, then she's got to go.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Do you not feel that people like Winehouse, the superstars of the 27 Club, right?
Yeah.
Do you not feel like they are the spawn of people already involved, and it's them at birth being involved?
Yeah, of course.
And justifying their first ritualistic witness, which maybe, like you say, at 13, but when they've got their adult head on, they can't go through with the next part of the ritual, and they just choose the other option.
A heart, like people like Lady Di. Well, Lady Diana's a classic example. You know, she's come from, you know, one of these dragon blood families and all that, but actually she had a heart for the underdog, and she didn't mind walking amongst the underdog and helping them. You know, she had no place with them. You know, and so she had to go. And I agree. I think these are look, if I make it big, if I write a book and it then becomes a bestseller, and then they make a film of it, and all of a sudden I'm known all around the world. If you was to do an audit trail on me, there wouldn't be much. There definitely would be no film footage of me, because before I did that, I wasn't really in that world known. But isn't it funny how people like David Beckham, there's film footage of him as a 7-year-old child, a 9-year-old child. Of Amy Winehouse, there's film footage of her as a young girl. There's film footage of all these people because they were groomed into it. All of them were groomed into it. It wasn't by chance, you know, that they just appeared unseen. You know, there was
100%.
do you know what I mean? They're connected, the whole lot of them, and they just said, "Oh, it's a coincidence." Well, it isn't, is it? You know, it isn't. It's but we've got these films like Eyes Wide Shut, and you know, Stanley Kubrick was telling us, you know, about these circles, how they work.
Do you know what? That's a whole other thing. I'll be honest, right? Because you've got true mad evil that we're talking about now, and then you've got a whole different subsequent layers that go all the way down to just consenting adults. But do you know what? You said something, John. And hang on, give me 1 second. I'm just getting a connection. No, we're good. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. Make sure you share this out, like, and subscribe. We're going for about an hour 40 minutes, everybody. And you know, John, how would you tell the normal person, right? Because it's easy to understand when it's Puff Daddy, right? I'm going to bring this back to mums and dads. Pay attention. We're bringing this back to a relevant your world scenario now. So people need to understand. It's easy to understand Justin Bieber and levels of fame that P. Diddy had, and people being sort of starstruck and looking up to them when it's super famous people. But to a 14-year-old girl or boy, someone on Instagram with 40,000 followers is the new celebrity. as low numbers. I mean, we're not talking super famous conventional. So when we talk about this level of vulnerability through idolization, the social media platforms are the new place where not cabal members, but dirty, predatory people will lurk, and they will use that level of allure of a tiny bit of fame based off numbers on a screen to make more children victims. Now, how do you feel, John, about how sort of prevalent social media has become?
Well, yeah, well,
With kids being groomed?
it's the only way now, isn't it? I mean, it's the most dangerous, toxic thing. I think the internet, mobile phones, definitely. I think they're a tool of the devil, because I mean, even now, I've analysed my last 2 years on how much work I've done in my house, and I've done nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 years previous, I built things. I built a whole self-contained flat with my own hands, plastered it, wired it, right? Because I would sit there and I would just listen, to an audio thing.
Yeah.
But now I sit and watch TikTok, and it sucks the life out of me. Now, can you imagine?
Wow. Do you know what? That's wild, man? Do you know, I'm not part of TikTok. I don't even have TikTok on my phone.
It's evil.
And do you know how often I hear? Do you know how often I hear that, John? Like, I get sucked into TikTok. I get sucked into TikTok, and it's crazy, because I'll be honest with you. For me, I believe that Australians are going in the right way, where they want to ban and have serious consequences for under 15-year-olds using social media. And you know what they based it off, John? Scientific research on mental health. Okay, so makes sense, right? It's a great argument. It's a great argument, and it worked, and it should be that.
Yeah, look at TikTok. He said it's a fruit machine. Each video is a spin. And he said, people spend the whole days on a fruit machine with the promise of a win, and you do it with the promise of looking at a video that you find amusing. And and before you know it, 2 hours have gone. 2 hours. Now, the other thing we've got to look at is pornography, and how dangerous that is to a teenage boy. It's taking their whole energy. We're all men, we're all teenagers once, and young men, and especially at school, someone will get hold of a dirty book, and you might borrow a page of it, take it home, and for the next, over the weekend, you wouldn't do anything. You just spend your whole day fiddling with yourself and falling asleep, but now you've got access to like the biggest superstore of porn, in the privacy of your own home. No one knows what you're looking at. No one cares. And it just subdues these kids. That's why we don't see people on the streets anymore, and kids climbing trees, and they're indoors fiddling with themselves over it. It's so dangerous. But let me go back to the young kid things. Well, Justin Bieber, I believe, is a victim and a survivor of horrific abuse and male R abuse. I think he's been demeaned. Again, you look at the ironicness of that whole rap scene, this macho gangster with women. They're not interested in women, these men. P. Diddy and the other, they've got no interest in women, because I don't think that's where their bread's buttered. I don't know. It's just a big front. It's a load of nonsense, right?
Well, listen, let's put aside where their bread's buttered, John. It's got to be about the control. It's not. It's got to be a control thing over it's orientation thing, if that makes sense.
It's a whole lie behind it. That he was on Graham Norton, sitting there laughing and joking. With Sarah Milligan and all that, like it's funny, And I'm thinking, you're just a filthy, dirty procurer of whatever it might be. We'll find out. And he's given the platform and treated, again, like I said earlier, treated like some sort of demigod. But they've not got Gennady Mokalenko in there and praising and clapping him. They've got this guy. Now, we know about Justin Bieber. We know about Amy Winehouse. What about all the young kids that we have no idea who they are, that are brought in and not seen again? Because I know, I work with these kids. And they were taken to these parties. They were taken to politicians' houses. Loads of them named one politician who went on to become a Home Secretary. Loads of kids did. And it was all covered up. I was told by one of the senior coppers, the one in charge of Vice, he said to me, John, you will F us, past, present and future. when I spoke out about this. He said, "You have no idea how deep this goes." Lenny Harper, the brave detective senior officer who exposed the nefarious child murdering goings on at Hope de la Garenne Kids Home in Jersey, he said to me once, the bravest cop I've ever met him, he said to me, "The tentacles of this go right to the heart of the British establishment. Be very careful."
Yeah.
Right, you lose your life in exposing this.
This is the thing, John, right? When we talk about the P. Diddy's, they're the fodder. They're the ones we're allowed to
They
talk
are,
about.
of course,
They're the
of
ones that
course. Yes,
so that we don't further.
yeah.
And when we talk about things on lists and naming people and all the rest of it, that's when you get to the level of where things are no longer a joke, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When people are unknown and people don't know where to go and find them, it's different if it's, when I used to expose social media people, all the rest of it, there was a system, it was easy. But when we talk about nameless monsters with billions behind them, legacies and family names that none of us even know exist, we enter into a world of true danger. And these cabals, these PDF clubs, they're everywhere. And they
But
go into the heart of all of the most powerful areas in the
yeah,
world.
and you've got to look at who wants to achieve these high echelons. Right now, there was a guy called Ronald Bernard who was a banker, and he came from a very broken background, and he went on to become one of the wealthiest bankers in the world. But he would go to parties where they were murdering children. He speaks out about it, right? Speaks out openly. Now, when we've discussed this in the past, the victimology, what goes on when someone becomes a victim of childhood abuse, and we've got the physical self, right, and you've got the mental self, and you've got the emotional self. So physically, someone can overachieve, and I mean overachieve, when they've been hurt as a child, right? You get boxers, people like Mike Tyson that have come from childhood neglect and everything else, have gone on, no one will ever hurt me as much as I was hurt by my stepdad or behind that. You've got many members of the SAS that have come from impoverished, neglectful backgrounds, and many have come from abuse backgrounds, and I state that after watching a documentary on the SAS. They interviewed 5 of them, and 3 had come from childhood abuse background. So I'm not in any way denigrating these people, right? Intellectually, yeah, they can do well. How many CEOs of big corporations have got a narcissistic, evil, do you know what I mean, side to them, slant to them?
It's a very prominent skill set that a lot of
Yeah,
companies
but
look for, is
of course,
being a psychopath
yeah,
and things like that.
that's right.
Desirable trait.
And
Not everyone
psychometrics.
can put an oil line through a small village in Nairobi without losing sleep. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of
It's these
course,
kind of
or doing like like McDonnell Douglas and Lockheed Martin,
yeah,
weapons, British
yeah,
aerospace weaponry, which kills, so many people, and then you
yeah,
get these idiots who watch Top Gear and they'll see a fighter jet and go, "Well, it's a serious bit of kit." I used to work with morons like that. A serious bit of kit, a serious bit of murdering innocent people. That's what it is, and they sit there and think, "Wow, look at that," and a bit like Top Trumps, the best torpedo in the world, and and all that crap. But the one thing, so we've got the intellectual, we've got the physical, but emotionally, we're balanced because we can sit there and reason with each other, and we do this every week. We reason. If we come to a point of variance, we get over it, right?
yeah.
But a damaged, emotionally broken person, their emotional clock stops at that broken child, and a broken child can't reason. So if you tell your little 2-year-old no, you don't get them saying, "Well, yeah, I can see the merits of that, Dad. I understand that. I think I know it is." No. They hate you. They want to kill you. They kick things. They throw a tantrum, right? Now, how many grown adults do we see throwing a tantrum? Well, isn't that what we saw P. Diddy doing, throwing a tantrum? Because that woman wouldn't do what he required her to do. He threw a child.
I get your analogy now, but tantrum is an understatement. Do you
Of
know what I'm
course,
saying? But I get your analogy now.
but
I was
but
wondering where you were going, but yeah, I get your
but
analogy.
but what we're seeing is a broken man. So therefore, This is the bigger argument I'm coming to. Therefore, the need to attend a pity party or Diddy party or whatever crap they come out with is because they're broken people that want to be the best. They want to be in the SAS of the music world and the
I
whatever it might
agree.
be.
I agree. I
Yeah,
think we're looking at a pie, a big cake with slices.
yeah.
I think you're going to have that percentage of people, but then you're going to have, which is if you've got someone willingly doing this, where's the fun in that? For Diddy, I believe the true goal was people being manipulated and forced into situations, whether it was people who were close to him doing it out of love for him, or people that he was paying to do things that they would never normally do. I think it was sport to him, and I think he got hypnotized by it. I just want to say to people as well, when John talks about Satanism and about instant gratification and things they want excess now and it's all the self. When we look at what these people do and the form of torture that they do, it's in a mystical or magical or energy, world. It's like hate is cutting to the chase, whereas love takes time. Do you see what I mean? The positive things have to be nurtured and grow. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But the positive and the nurturing that comes from normal loving existence outweighs all of this. You have to all understand. I don't want people giving up on the world. There is way more good than bad in the world. And I say this, John, good doesn't sell newspapers or headlines. Gun crime can go down in a state, but coverage of violent crime goes up. It's a false narrative.
This is what I was saying about watch a documentary on YouTube called Almost Holy about Gennady Mokanenko. When you watch that, you feel empowered. You feel, wow, this guy is absolutely amazing what he does. And it gives you, it gives you hope. I spent 3 years working with severely, and I mean severely, non-verbal, violent, autistic kids. Right, I was on minimum wage, getting punched at, spat at, feces smeared on me, everything on a daily basis, as were my colleagues. Do you know, the most honourable job I've ever done in my life? You know, it's good for the soul. People like P. Diddy and everyone else, if they was to just do something like that, just for 5 minutes in their day, you know, it would have a profound and positive effect on them. But they don't, because everything's about
John,
them.
the system has been designed that way. If you abuse and condition them as babies in this cabal, they're going to grow up completely hopeless of love. And it's only hate. And it's this instant gratification when it comes to this ritualistic summoning of energy. If you're torturing and ripping somebody apart and destroying innocence, that surge of panic and hate and just absolute evil is so strong within that. It's horrific.
When I do a lot of work with people who turn their lives around, and we put together a documentary which is in the editing phase now called Redemption. And we've got a guy called Stephen French on there, who was AKA the devil, one of the most dangerous men officially in the UK. You know, the man, all he wants to do is help kids turn their lives around. That's all he wants to do. He talks to me at least once a week saying, John, we need to get the government to start helping these kids. You got Chris Lambriano, 86 years old, campaigns every single day to help, again, anti-knife crime, take people out of crime, you know, promote love and happiness and everything else. At one point, one of the most feared gangsters in the UK, a guy called Ez Catel. Anyone from the East End will know Ez. He was the most feared enforcer there was. He runs a church now, and all he does is help people with depression and suicide. And that's what they do. And, you know, and it was love. You're right. It was love that turned them round. I get put in these positions, and it is an attack, but I don't think they're meant to. And it's from survivors of abuse who call out to me. But they say to me, because they know I'm a Christian, and my Lord, my Saviour is Jesus Christ. And they said, John, you know, we all have freedom of choice. Where was my freedom of choice when I was being hard as a baby, when I was being cut, when I was being beaten, when I was being neglected? Where was your Jesus? And it's a tough one. And I have to say, it was evil that did that. It weren't good. It weren't love that did that. It was hate. And it was every element of negativity and loathing that did that. And you know, they've got a point. And when you give them the answer, they don't like it, but it's the truth. It is the truth, and it's a tough world. And we've got to be victim focused here, and we've got to not
Yeah.
get caught up with all the celebrity worship here. We've got to look at how many victims has this P Diddy directly or indirectly hurt,
Yeah.
and
100%. I completely agree. And when we
and
talk about procuring of children, what more a status symbol than monetizable, soon to be billionaire, famous children? And, from the Cabal point of view, that was what Diddy, excelled at. I just want to say as well, just to balance things out, big shout out to my Lord and Savior, Odin, what is happening. But, love and religion, exactly as you just said there, John, with these individuals that turned their life around. I imagine they'll tell you it would have been easier. They could have went back to being feared in a second, but building up that new reputation, that positive, that loving reputation would have taken time and nurturing, right? And that's the thing that separates a lot of these individuals.
Well, it's the same as a gangster and a drug dealer, and they can go back in. There's one guy, he makes me laugh, but he's a prolific. He was one of the most prolific armed robbers in the UK, and he's just going straight. He said, John, I'm skint all the time. I can't pay my bills. I struggle all the time. He said, going straight is hard. I have a guy who's a born again Christian, but he's very well known in the Romani Gypsy community. And he said, John, for a gypsy to earn, his words, not mine, for a gypsy to earn an honest dollar is hard going, mate. It's hard going, and it's hard going to keep our own community on the straight and narrow, because sometimes their community historically and generationally isn't. And again, I'm not knocking it. His words, not mine. And it's a tough call to do the right thing, but it's good for the soul. You'll sleep better at night, and you know what? There'll be no hurt left in your wake. There'll be no pain. There'll be nothing but positivity, and fulfillment. Your children will grow up with their heads strong. Their bodies will be strong, and they'll be happy in their hearts.
Are you talking about Jesus again? Are you talking about if people follow Jesus, this is how they're going to feel? Did I miss you wedging in some Jesus? Again?
Well, of course that as well. But what I'm saying is, when you do the right thing and you help people and you have love, you're gonna leave behind you is nothing but edifying for society. But when you hurt your children, you mock them, you put them down, you belittle them, you are them, you abuse them, they're going to be full of hatred, self-loathing. They're going to want to hurt themselves. It will take 3 generations. There's every chance they'll do it to their own kids. Not wholly, but there's a chance that their kids will suffer, and they'll be crying. You're going to leave behind chaos and total and utter destruction.
I agree.
I agree. And this is a choice, and this is the difference it makes. It's total and utterly poles apart. So
I just want to say, everybody, there's been times where I've been sucked into listening to John, and I've realized I'm getting sucked into what feels like this a bit of a religious thing, and I love busting John's chops for it, because I get sucked into it. He does it so well, and I do like to sort of bust his chops for it, because John, if it came to the holy war, if it started tomorrow, at some point, me and John are meeting on the battlefield on opposite sides, and we'll kill everyone else first. Agreed, John? And then it will just be you and me on the hilltop, and we'll chill for a while. We'll chill for a while. But I mean, it boils down to exactly that. Love is the answer.
It's all there is, and that's all we've got. It's all we've got left. I mean, even animals know how to love unconditionally. They don't know religion, but they know love. God bless all those that do go out there and do promote positivity and do promote, an anti-crime, rhetoric and everything else. I mean, they're the ones that society should be bolstering up. But when the celebrity world and the criminal world and society in general knows or suspects that there's wrongdoing, these people shouldn't be on telly. There's been a lot of rumours around Sean Combs for a long time. He's been connected to a murder. There was it was the the son of the governor of Belize, his name was Shine, his street name Shine or something. He went away for a murder he didn't commit because it was alleged
Yeah.
that Coombs committed the murder, shot some guy in a club, you know, and he's dirty. He shouldn't be allowed to
Yeah.
travel. He shouldn't be promoted. He shouldn't, you know. But why is he? Why is he? You know, and of course it comes out now, and there's a lot of people, you know, with egg on their face, and they'll say things like me, well, you can't prove it. And I say this to them, right? If you move into an area, right, to all those dissenters, and you're a young couple, and you've got a kid, and you want to go out for the night, and in that street there's two babysitting services. One is by a
Okay.
lovely woman who everyone loves and says she's good, she's decent, the kids love her, not one complaint or anything. And the other is a man who has got a history of allegations, nothing proven, but allegations of neglect and abuse against him. Who would you choose to look after your kid?
It's a
Well, it
trick
would.
question, John. You never ever. You don't pick either of them because the only person you know isn't abusing kids is yourself. Okay,
It's
that's what I'm
yourself. I know. I'm with you. I'm the same here. No one looks after kids, but you know,
saying.
but that, you know, hypothetically, this is my thing, and this is why.
Yeah.
Well, if there is an allegation, an unproven allegation, you know, you're going to err on the side of the caution, and you're not going to go there with it.
Yeah.
But there has always been
100%.
rumours and allegations around, you know, all of these people: Hugh Edwards, Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
You know, the list goes on, and there's one. And he's a well-known TV comedy actor. And I'm telling you now, I won't say any more than that, because I don't want to narrow it down too much, because I'll get done. But it will come out about him. It will. It will. But everyone sides with the character, not with the person. But it will come out, and there'll be a lot
Okay.
of people so upset about that when that happens. But
I'm
there's
going to hit you with
rumours.
some. I'm going to hit
Go
you
on.
with some questions, John. Right.
Yeah.
First of all, last like and share people were in the last 20 minutes, right? So we've been asking the public this all week, right? On the scale of power and influence and things like this, who do you think has more power in the scale of the man on the island versus Diddy, and that power reflecting their survival ability in prison? Like who? Because
Yeah.
well, first of all, who do you think is in a bigger position of power in the evil
Well,
scale? Who do you think
yeah.
is the heavier hit?
I mean, the island keeper was
Yeah,
probably wagging the tail of many big
yeah,
corporate and sort of
yes,
do you know what I mean? Royal dogs,
yes,
without a doubt.
correct. He
This
was
is
the
where
corporate side.
the corporate, yeah, this is where the unknown would go. The people we've never heard of, you know, the big companies we've
Yep.
never heard of.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but the Mr. Diddy, it will be more user friendly. The people we do know. So in
yeah.
many ways, and he probably would put on a better party than the other one. So I would say Mr. Diddy's probably got a huge amount of influence,
So,
because he's probably going to get his hands a lot more dirty than our island man, you know.
well, do you not think that? Do you think then that it was the level of shoulders that were rubbed with the man on the island that definitely led to him definitely
Yeah,
offing
yeah,
himself? Nothing suspicious there.
He
So, do
he
you
could
think
bring down the
that
nation.
Diddy's? Yeah, okay. So you think that Diddy's fodder, if you will, his targets are too low end for them to maybe do something like try and convince him
Yeah,
to off himself like Epstein?
yeah, probably, and
Do you see what
he
I'm saying?
probably will know a lot of names, won't he? You know, because
Yeah,
it's a bit like I spoke to a guy who used to sell cocaine to Tara Para
yeah,
Tompkinson, TPT,
allegedly.
and you know,
Yeah,
and again connected to the royal family and everything, and killed herself in an
yeah,
overdose. And he said, you know, she would pay 5 times what everyone else would pay because she wasn't street
yeah,
connected. You know, so you know, Diddy will be street connected, so he will get people whatever they wanted. And
yeah,
some of these people, they like that dirty street scene, you know.
yeah.
That it's their
Hmm.
thing, you know.
Well,
Going a bit like Jack the Ripper, going amongst the East End and picking up a dirty streetwalker and whatnot. So
yeah, I hear you. If anyone's got any questions they want to throw at us before we wind down, we're finishing bang on 9 o'clock. We've got 16 minutes.
But the
and-
island thing would have brought down nations. I would have thought. I definitely think it would have had a major impact on our royal family, because isn't it funny?
Okay, well, I've got. Yeah. No, carry on with that one.
He was in the scene. He was in the frame for it. You know, Mr. Andrew. He was in the frame for it.
Yeah.
And the next thing,
it.
COVID appeared out of nowhere, and the whole island thing was forgotten about. You know.
Yeah. It's
that turned up, and everything else was pushed to one side. You know,
here's an interesting one. This is my favorite tinfoil hat moment of the week, right? With everyone's theories. What about with the man on the island and P. Diddy, the possibility of the people that went to jail being lookalikes or stooges, and with their, with the passing of the man on the island, everything disappears, right?
Well,
it's like off to the Illuminati island. Thanks for your service, and they go. Do you think there's a possibility?
Let's say that right now. There was a film that came out post-war, and it was about Field Marshal Montgomery, Monty, of the the Ninth Army, the Desert Rats, and he had a looky-likey, a doppelganger who was a lowdown. This was a field marshal. The other guy was a whatever you were, private in the engineers.
Yeah.
And he looked so alike that they put this guy through acting classes. They put him through elocution classes, and in the end, people couldn't tell the two apart. Yeah. They couldn't. He perfected his mannerisms, his speeching.
Dude, freaking Saddam Hussein figured it out.
Yep.
Saddam Hussein figured this out, bro. Do you know Saddam? Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying he didn't have like people helping him with his ideas, but he never came across as like a super creative, coming up with his own ideas guy. And if he can figure that out, they've all done it, man. And it's an interesting theory to think. If you've achieved a level of success within the Cabal, your reward is to go off to your Mecca.
One of my informants
in the real world,
when I was in the police, he was in the Scottish prison system, and he said to me that he'd got to know via the mosque Abdel El Megrahi, and Abdel El Megrahi I think was in Stockton prison. It might have been Greenock, but I think it might have been Stockton. They put him in Stockton, and he said, John, no one gets near to him, right? He's kept away. And I said, did he get a hard time? He went, no, they love him because he was doing for the government what I do for you. He said he was an informant. He had nothing to do with that plane, nothing. And he said, but no one can get to him. Everywhere he goes, he must have 2 guards. So if someone goes into prison, they can be isolated. And this is my theory of Rule 43, segregation, included in respect to the PDF files. So if you go to prison, you end up with general population, you're going to talk, right? These prisoners all sit there 24 hours, bang up, or in association will talk, and they'll talk about corrupt coppers, they'll talk about defences that used at work. They call it the University of Crime. But what if now, for safety reasons, that the PDF files aren't allowed with them? But what if they did put them with them, and they started saying, look, people like Sidney Cook and all these others, people like Brian Fields are saying, look, I was getting the kids, I was getting them, but I was getting them for people higher up. You need to know who I was getting them for. And they would start shedding that information, whether it's freely or under torture. They would start giving that information. Now, that is dangerous information to give to a low-down criminal.
Yeah.
Because you imagine a bank robber is up on a charge and turns around and says, right, in court, and says, right, well, I'm gonna give my plea in a minute, but I want you to know that the kids were taken to Buckingham Palace. I know exactly who took them, where, and tell the world. They've done that on many times. They shut down trials. The Craig twins did it.
I agree.
So it's without a doubt, it's a possibility. Does it go on? Oh, look, the covert world of policing, as rudimentary as it was when I was in there, could do some incredible things, some amazing, incredible things, and they could pull some amazing strokes as well. So it's highly likely that definitely with the man on the island, it just stinks. The whole thing around it stinks. And again,
It does. It does.
Same with Saddam Hussein, or no, Bin Laden, that they dumped his body out at sea.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
why?
of course
Why
it
would
did.
you
Of
dump
course
a
it did.
Muslim's
Yeah,
body
of
out at
course it
sea?
did.
You know, that's, you know, we did it in traditional Islamic style, and you know, that was it. And
Yeah.
of course, everyone involved on that mission died in a helicopter crash. You know,
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
no
I mean,
audit trail.
that's that narrative is something. Now, Kay Locker, you did a comment. I want to put it up here. Clinton's, Obama, Podesta, Trump. These are hang on one second. Apologies. These are the next top level and extremely powerful and dangerous. So, Kay Locker, from now on, I want you to imagine all of these people that have these positions of power as sock puppets. Okay, these are the ones who are the face of manipulation and control. These are the ones who do the political R-ing and the economic R-ing who are part of this cabal. But trust me, do not have a fear of questioning these individuals, because they are nothing but little puppets on
But
strings with false power from overlords that we don't even know who they are. It's
there's a guy called Colin Wallace, who's a captain in the
yeah,
intelligence regiment in the British Army, and he was given the responsibility for Northern Ireland.
yeah,
He started looking into the missing boys of Kincora, because, and one of them was the one we did a program on, Brian McDermott, who I
yeah,
boldly state was a victim of ritual abuse, because I
yeah,
had someone that was at the ceremony told me what had happened, right? And his torso was
sure,
found and mutilated exactly the way I was told, and it was never ever disclosed. A certain part,
yeah,
and that was
that's
his left
true.
arm was removed. Right now, Colin Wallace
Yeah,
made a comment about these kids and said, "There's things not right going on here." He was also instructed
yeah,
by the British establishment to start looking into ritual abuse and attending the sites of suspected ritualistic ceremonies. Right, he had to research it because he didn't
yeah,
even know about it. Right, he got so deep involved in it. He was then told to back away, right, because he started linking
yeah.
these missing kids up, and you know, with nefarious goings
Of
on with
course.
people high up in the British establishment. He was stitched up for a murder that he didn't commit, and he was given life. He served 10 years, and he
Yeah.
fought tirelessly. A highly intelligent guy, and he ended up getting released and exonerated for the murder. Because the
But
intelligence services
it's,
stitched him up.
I mean, it's,
So it goes on.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, but it's there's not enough um penance and reconciliation for these people that have been miscarried of justice. Now, John, we've got 8 minutes. Thursday,
Yeah.
we are diving into a new case. It is the case of the man, the face of Harrods, Al Fayed. Do you want to just give us a little couple of minute plug on what we're going to be looking at? Because that's
So
Thursday,
we've,
right?
yeah. Oh, we not moved it to Wednesday, that one?
Yes, you said
Yes,
Wednesday. Yeah,
Wednesday.
so that's tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back with
Tomorrow. Now, Fayed, posthumously, the allegations have come out. Witnesses have been interviewed. Multiple allegations of the R word, drugging, and the R word, and S assaults. You know, for decades. And again,
Yeah,
his security team knew about it. The authorities knew. Absolutely nothing done. You know, it's shocking, appalling. You know, and again, this man seen as being, you know, a quirky individual who stood up against the British royal family, and he was loved and all that. He was nothing more than an arist. He's a dirty
yeah,
pervert. This guy, you know. So it's
yeah.
really. But again, it's come out too late. The justice is going to be done posthumously. It's so wrong, so wrong. So, but at least it's coming out. So you know, when we've got things like
Yeah.
that, it makes you think, well, what's next? You know, so
Oh,
you know what could be seen as incredulous that someone's involved in it might not be. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I look forward to it. And
yeah, well, me too. And just to let everyone know, John and I have been doing our weekly crime theories for a while now. If you go to the Project Root channel, which is my channel, there's a playlist that has all the back catalogue. The first series, if you start at Jill Dando and work your way through the playlist, they're all hosted on the Sean Atwood channel, but listed on mine for easy viewing. If you go there and start going through, you'll start learning about the cases that John's been talking about, how they all interconnect, and how these individuals, once they get too close, have sudden accidents, or someone turns up and shoots you on your doorstep. There is patterns, and when we look at cases like Diddy, or the Man on the Island, or the Lost Prophets singer, or Savile, we have to start looking at the connections between these sectors of this global club, and it paints a fairly grim picture of what we're all up against when the higher echelons are all preordained to favor these monsters. And John is one of these individuals who's put his life on the line in a literal sense to expose what we're talking about here. And anyone who's intrigued and wants to know more, please go and watch that series. Please support John everywhere and anywhere he's doing his work, because he is one of the real ones and he is no joke. So I just want to say a big thank you, as always, to John. We've got 5 minutes left. Let's talk about something positive, John. Let's talk about something positive.
Well, I've got,
hit us with
Sean Atwood has agreed to publish my book, so I've now got a publisher. I'm 2/3 of the way through, maybe 4/5 of the way through now. So I'm just looking at the final couple of chapters and editing. So hopefully before Christmas. It's been a long time coming. I've been, keep putting it off, and but I'm back on track with it. So that's coming out, and I'm I'm sort of
when can we get a cover? When can we start plugging this? When can we start when can we start plugging this book?
Hopefully before Christmas, and then I'm at the moment I'm in the process of we're just editing now documentary Redemption. Again, it's been difficult because I'm no good with the technical stuff, and I rely on my man to do it, and he's had a few personal issues, so everything gets put on the back burner and things like that. But we've got the momentum back, and also I was talking to Sean Atwood today, and I'm just saying, Sean, look at what we've been saying all these years, and I said it will be the child abuse stuff that's at the bottom of this, and it's all coming out. So it's it was predictive. What we said, I got attacked for it, I got mocked for it, laughed at, but it's now coming out. We're seeing that the whole veil being lifted now, and it is the rotten society. This is what it is,
100%,
and so it's, and it must be
100%.
also. I know it's triggering for the victims, but it's also must be very empowering to know that you was right, and now it's making your testimony very credible. So big shout out to all those that have endured this, because it must be incredibly triggering, because it's the number one conversation at the moment. And so stay strong. It wasn't your shame. It wasn't. They did it to you,
100%.
and we're behind you all the way. We stand for the victims and survivors. But things are very positive at the moment, and we just got to keep fighting out and speaking out, and please, people, share the work. Just share the work, get it out there, and
100%.
100%. All's good.
I just want to say, you got to get that done for Christmas, bro, or you've missed the boat, yo. Like, you got to get that pushed out for Christmas. And I just want to say, John, for everything, or all the time you give up for me, if you ever need things like short video trailers made or adverts made for your projects, I'll give up my time so that your editor can focus on his main editing to do any advertising.
Well, maybe we'll do something for the book then when that comes out. Get that pushed out there.
100%.
And everything else. So
now,
but all's good.
We've got a real treat now. In the last 90 seconds, John, we're going to solve the world's problems here. We were asked a question. John, and we're going to solve it.
Go on.
What is the best religion? Okay, and I'm just telling you now, this is a serious thing. Okay, this is definitely not a joke. Okay, I'm definitely not just going to keep talking until we hit 9 o'clock and then cut the live stream off before anyone gets an answer, because there is no answer. But anyone that's looking for religion, keep an open mind and don't just go with the mainstreams. You know, broaden your minds. And John, thank you for being here, mate.
Well,
I just
in answer to that, you know, I follow the man Jesus. I used to be a Catholic. I turned my back on organised religion, I just follow the man Jesus.
That was a joke. No, listen. Also, Odin's pretty cool. Just listen. There's a whole world of there. I love you, John. I love you, brother. Right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you all for choosing the Sean Atwood channel. Thank you all for supporting myself, John Wedger, and the Sean Atwood channel, whichever platform you're watching on. We are going to go over now to an interview of Diddy being outed. Go